the one thing that I know all three of us men have in common is this return to traditional ways as a way of healing. And I'll speak for myself. That involved for me a lot of, just what you described, this vulnerability, this getting comfortable with being new at something. Even as an adult, when we come from a situation where we're taught to act like we know, don't show up here acting like you don't know what you're talking about. But showing up and having to ask questions, can you talk to me about these songs? Can you talk to me about this ceremony? Like, I'm new to this stuff, even though I'm coming to you as an adult. And I'm grateful that other people in the community had the patience, the love, and the soundness of mind to really share that stuff with me. So for that, I'm grateful. And I also was going to say, we all three have experience being active. You two in particular, currently working still actively in the community with nonprofits, and I'm just grateful for that. I'm grateful that we can come back around and share that stuff because we have lived experience. Lived experience gives you the opportunity to climb into a pocket with somebody who thinks nobody knows what it's like to go through what I'm going through right now. And to sit down and go, listen, brother, I remember, listen, when I was under I-5 in that tent, when I was waking up every morning, this is what was on my mind and this is how I felt. And this is what that view looks like, and that sense of hopelessness and that sense of, or just a different sense of perspective being out on the street. You talked about waking up on those park benches in Occidental Park. And I remember those benches really well, so I appreciate the shared experience, and I appreciate having comrades that are walking out this red road in a good way. So thank you, guys.
I'll just add the big takeaway, I think, is the importance of the cultural appropriate services. And we deal so much in this with homelessness work, and people seem to get it, but they don't really truly get it. It always seems to revert back away from that. And you got to remind them constantly, we need specific grants and methods and to be able to do our work. There's so much intersectionality with the addiction in our community that goes with the trauma, that we've endured for 500 years of colonization, the boarding schools, the devastation of our families, the outline of doing our traditional ceremonies, everything, right? That's just compounded one thing right after another. That's just this disenfranchised grief, that it's referred to, right? That you never have a chance to heal the community because another atrocity is thrown right back on you. Termination, relocating. It just constantly. So there was so much anger in my youth that, dad couldn't overcome his problems and be there for me. Right. And because I didn't understand that until I sobered up and dove into my ceremonies and culture. And then it opened my eyes to, he was another casualty of the colonization. And he was that way because of his parents' words as well. Right. And then it kind of just trickled down. And when it took all of that to really, truly understand, to let go of a lot of that anger and hurt, and to start healing myself, my own childhood traumas, and to let go of all that. And you can't do that unless you have shared experience, and you got to be around people who understand that. And people who don't come from our community can't understand what that's like to know, walking around in a city that should be, have a lot of honor to Native people, but you don't see it, right? And it's the once land that was all ours. And, and just a constant reminder, walking around on a holiday, things, seeing families all warm and cozy and, and all those things that just bring up a lot of anger, right? But it's not trying to be separatists or segregation or any way like that, right? But to heal our community, we have to be able to have space to be able to do it ourselves. And that's even the treatment program, treatment funding, programming, all of that. There should be carve outs this is a Native model for Native people here over here. And this, there's got to be all that. And that's one takeaway I think that should have.
Thank you, Derrick. And Heather, as we talked about, I think the culture, getting back in touch with culture for me, was the cornerstone of my recovery. Because for years we would go into ceremony, we would go into the lodge, and we would cry out to the Creator. And there were, warriors, true tough guy convicts that were, there for murders and just all sorts of atrocious things. And we would come into the lodge and how many brothers that we would sit in the circle with and cry for our families and cry for our shorties and cry for our children. And we talked a lot about the Red Road. Creator, help me stay on this path, right? And coming home, and that's part of what keeps me clean is I can't handle medicines. I can't touch beadwork. I can't go to ceremonies. I can't show up as a father. I can't facilitate a class in a good way if I'm drinking or drugging, right? And so for me, being able to take off that wet jacket of guilt and shame and actually come back and take my place, in my tribe, within the community, my cousin is the culture director, the daughter of the late, great Chief Andy D. Los Angeles, who did a lot of work for the Native community, in the 60s and 70s during, the American Indian movement. Fought for our tribal re-recognition. We too were terminated in 1953 and we gained recognition. Andy was a big part of that. And so to work with his daughter Ginger as the culture director, and get to teach her what I know about medicines, And, for me, that's the community aspect of that. And Jason, it took about 7 or 8 years to actually realize that, hey, this is the part of the Red Road that we prayed about, talking about all of those years, right? Yeah. In the lodge behind the iron gates, right? And so what's really cool is I get to share time out here on this side of the fence with a lot of brothers that I did time with that are actually clean and sober. There's a few brothers, that run around with you. Little Johnny Cachero, right? Robinson Edwards. The first time I met him was at McNeil Island Correction Center, and I had a little 22 months, and he had 20 years. And 15 years later, we got to meet at an NA meeting on a Friday night. And we're like, hey, where do I know you from? And we get to share that journey. Yeah. So for me coming home, it's like, who am I more prone to listen to? Right? Somebody with a lived experience piece, right? Somebody that's been where I've been, rather than, a non-native, right? A non-person of color, somebody fresh out of high school or, fresh out of college with a certificate and wants to tell me about my life and the disease of addiction, right? And tell me about my problem. Where's the identification at, right? So yes, for me, culture, is a big part of the recovery, and it's all interwoven into the bigger piece of the foundation. And, I don't know, it's a cool thing to actually to walk in one with, the creator, myself, society, and do the thing.
I'm going to tell you what I wanted to, something else I wanted to sort of put in here, and these will be my last few words, is really about gratitude. There's a tremendous sense of gratitude for, as a person that was a client that slept on a cot at that same Indian center, Derrick, for a person that came home and have benefited and prospered from working with all these Indigenous nonprofits, both as a client and then later on as a participant and a staff member. I just wanted to say that I'm really grateful for the chance that we've had to we put ourselves back in the community. This is really where we belong. And this is the way that things make sense in the way they never have in life. And I'm just grateful for this richness. And I'm grateful for the good work that you guys do to keep that alive and to make that grow. And yes, coming home to traditional ways has been everything. So I just want to say kuda baramish. I'm really, really grateful. And I hope that we get to have more conversation like this.